Hello and welcome to episode 3 of our series Back to Basics Artificial Intelligence, meaning season 4. In this episode we are going to talk about user interface. I should say user interfaces, plural again. We already touched upon the data usage, the artificial intelligences in the plural. So now for this episode about user interfaces, I would like to ask Patrick to come and tell you more about this very interesting topic. Patrick.
Thank you, Olivier. So yes, user interfaces. So user interfaces serve as the entry point for any interaction with AI, right? And we'll explore several examples of these. However, in this episode, we'll also delve into the upstream processes behind these user interfaces, examining what is needed behind the scenes to ensure the reliability of the answers provided. But before that, let's see what Wikipedia defines as a user interface. A user interface, UI, is the space where interactions between humans and machines occur. The goal of this interaction is to allow effective operation and control of the machine from the human hand, while the machine simultaneously feeds back information that aids the operator's decision-making process. So again, and as a recap of the second episode on data utilization, it is important to understand that a machine is always behind our generated result. And based on this definition, and to illustrate the interfacing between humans and machines, let me take the following example. An iceberg, something very easy to remember, right? Effectively, an iceberg, as everyone knows, consists of two parts, the tip and the submerged part. And if we focus on the emerging part, let's try to figure out for 1 second what's going on there. And for this, come with me and just take a little step back, because whether we like it or not, whether consciously or not, we all use AI in our everyday lives, and even in an immeasurable number of times a day, and again, perhaps without realizing it. And in any case, what we use to interact with AI, whether it's a smartphone, a food processor at home, a smart car, a smart home, smart loudspeakers, a connected watch, a web app, and so on. This represents just a tiny part of the iceberg, the tip, right? And this therefore represents what we can call user interfaces. Each of these devices consumes AI in its own way and uses AI to deliver smarter, more personalized experiences to make, again, our lives easier and more efficient. And by the way, this is just the beginning, as AI is constantly evolving, as you know, and its use by devices will obviously continue to develop. But these devices also use different methods or consumption modes to interact with AI and with the machines in the background. We can mention here, as an example, NLP, or natural language processing, which enables voice recognitions. We can mention APIs, which typically makes it easy to communicate with other software systems or services. Or another example might be augmented or virtual reality, which in the end offers much more immersive and engaging user experience. Nevertheless, one can benefit from the best possible interface or the best possible device, but if the submerged part of the iceberg is not professionally managed, the results generated by AI in the user interface will be distorted, erroneous, or even invented. And in general, the simpler and more intuitive the user interface is, the more complicated and tedious the upstream work often is. So now, precisely, what do we find in this submerged part of the iceberg? And to start with, and this is a must, we have data. Again, data, right? We talk here about all types of data. Structured data, unstructured data, public, private, streaming data, sensor data, images, and so on and so forth. The choice is limitless. Second, an LLM, or large language model, or a foundation model, which is again a model capable of machine learning, trained based on existing data at a certain time, and capable of generating text on the fly. And already with these two parameters that we see here, to begin with, we are in the situation that each and every one of us know. Imagine we use a generative copilot, for example, SAP Joule, Google Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT, or Midjourney for drawing generation, or others. The methodology is always the same. A prompt is entered and a response is generated. At this stage, we must realize that it is the human and only the human who is able to judge the accuracy of this answer. Because indeed, one must well imagine that AI remains statistics, right? And as Olivier mentioned it in the previous episode, there is no response of type, I don't know, right? So in a case where generative copilot does not find any proper answer, instead of generating the best answer, will actually generate the least false answer, as we have seen. And this is where we talk about hallucinations, right? Because the large language model underneath is not well indexed, or is not up to date, or has not been trained based on the latest valid data. And in this context, the human always intervenes, right? And can recognize these hallucinations and not consider them for further decision making. But now imagine for this second, if we apply this scheme to enterprise data to generate information and to generate responses on this data, there is no room for hallucinations, right? Company data is sensitive data and represents the most important asset in an organization, which means that this data cannot be made vulnerable under any circumstances. So these hallucinations must therefore be reduced to the maximum, and then, most importantly, we would like then to generate insights based on real-time data, right? Because we need to make decisions on real-time data. And at this point, this is where the need for a platform comes into play, serving as an orchestrator and a coordinator between enterprise data on one side and a broad generative large language model on another. An orchestrator which is not only used to link the data and the user interface, but also, and above all, to contextualize, control, and secure the query on an harmonized and governed data layer. Indeed, as I have also mentioned previously, there's no effective AI solution if the data underneath is not properly harmonized and managed. So in conclusion of this episode, and before we hand it over to Olivier to tell us more about how SAP handles AI, let us try to quickly summarize what we have just explored. So first, a user interface can be anything, any device, any consumption mode. Second, the underlying technological approach will always follow the same methodology. Thirdly, there is always, and I say always, the need for data, and if possible, recent data, or even real-time data. Fourth, a large language model that will generate text based on this controlled data. And last point, an orchestrative platform allowing contextualizing, securing, and governing the data that is sent to the large language model for generation of insights, reducing hallucinations to the maximum.
Now that we know a little bit more about the different types of user interfaces and what's below and above, we will see you next time in the next episode when we talk about the usage in the enterprise. Again, thank you so much and see you next time. Bye-bye. Now that we know a little bit more about the different types of user interfaces and what's below and above, we will see you next time in the next episode when we talk about the usage in the enterprise. So again, thank you so much and see you next time. Bye-bye.